Over at BangTheBook.com, we are your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information. Lots of great stuff over there as we head on into the weekend. Danny Vorgs' updated NFL power ratings posted over at the website, as well as his model picks for week one here. Got some sides, got some totals. 58% lifetime over the 2 years that Danny's been with us, and I'm certainly expecting him to continue to carry a high percentage here for year three. Also over there, my college football power ratings have been posted. Some situational betting tips for week two. We've got best bets from Admir Algic. We'll have some trends articles. We'll have Alan Moody's trio of picks for both college football and the NFL with his pick of the week, total of the week, and his top system picks play. I got NASCAR previews for this weekend. Got a UFC preview for this weekend. We'll continue to cover the WNBA as we get closer to the playoffs with that. Major League Baseball on a daily basis over there as well. So lots of stuff going on over at BangTheBook.com, which is why we are your one-stop shop for sports betting news and information. As you know, this and every edition of Bang the Book Radio, presented by our friends over at DSI Sportsbook. BTB, the number 200, is that promo code. 100% deposit match bonus for the sportsbook. 100% deposit match bonus for the live casino at BetDSI. It's only a game until you bet it. Going to be talking about the SuperContest here to open up today's show. Time is very much running out for you to sign up for the SuperContest or the Circa Million here for this year. Sign up ends on Saturday morning. So Maddie and Tony over at footballcontest.com still have appointments, still have slots available if you want to sign up for the SuperContest. If you live outside of the state of Nevada or don't have access to get to the state of Nevada, you can still be part of the contest, but you have to use a proxy service. Maddie and Tony over at footballcontest.com have done a phenomenal job for us. I'm sure that they will do the same for you. All right, so let's talk SuperContest and Circa Million. Maybe you'll get some Golden Nugget insights from me here as well. The Golden Nugget does include college sides. That's 7 picks a week as opposed to 5 picks a week here in both the SuperContest and the Circa Million. Of course, the SuperContest and the Circa, NFL only here for this year. We'll see if maybe Circa picks up a college contest down the line or something like that. But in any event, I wanted to fly solo here because, like I said, I think that it's best for me to organize my thoughts, for me to go through my thoughts. Does it make for the best radio? I don't know, maybe not. I mean, you listened to me flying solo on the Bettor's Box over the course of the summer, so a lot of you did listen to that. I don't know if it's going to make for good radio, but I do think that at the outset here, it's the best thing for me. And like I said, I cut baseball off fairly early this year, much earlier than I usually do, because I wanted to try and put all of my focus on these contests that we're part of. So I'm very serious about them. Not to say I haven't been serious about them in the past, but very serious about them here for this year. So obviously a lot of things that I'm trying to accomplish here. And again, I think the best way to do that is just to fly solo on these segments. So I apologize that you have to listen to me for a half hour straight, but I think you should still get some good insights out of the rationale that I have for my picks here in both the SuperContest and the Circa Million. Last year, looking at the SuperContest field as a whole, 51.93%. Of course, this is by and large a VIG-free event. The break even at minus 110, 52.38%. That's not in play here, but there is an 8% administration fee taken off of the $1,500 buy-in. So I guess that's kind of your VIG in a way. But last year, the consensus, the more popular side in each game was 125, 124, and 7. Now, the top 5 consensus, the 5 most selected sides each week, obviously 17 weeks times 5 picks, 85 games here in this sample size. The top 5 consensus came in at 45 and 40. So overall, a little bit better than a coin flip at 51.93%. And of course, with the sheer number of picks in this thing, 3,123 entrants last year, should be close to that here this year as well. A lot of picks. Not everybody makes 5 per week because some teams fall off the pace and sort of fade away if they're not doing anything in the middle of the season. But still, this is a very large sample size of picks. It was over 200,000 picks last year, I believe. So, or not over 200,000, sorry. My apologies for that. I'll have to pull up the actual record here. I don't know where I'm getting my math from to start this show. I guess just, a lot on my mind here as I hope to get off to a really good start in the Super Contest here this season. Last year, 131,915 winners, 122,103 losers, 6,817 ties. So I guess I was right. A whole lot of picks here in the Super Contest field. Once again, 51.93%. This year at Bang the Book, we are not in the Super Contest Gold. That is the $5,000 buy-in, winner-take-all for that one. Last year, there were, I believe, 94 contestants in that. It's up over 100 this year. That was a success rate of 53.39%. The consensus, the most selected side in each individual game, 138, 101, and 7. And the top 5 consensus had a couple of games that were tied with the same number of picks for the 5th most selected side, 48, 34, and 5. So the gold field was much stronger overall. That makes sense because you had the higher buy-in, you had the winner-take-all. In theory, the gold field should be a sharper type of field there. And obviously the success rate and the consensus numbers do support that theory that we do have about the Super Contest Gold. Like I said, we're not in it this year. We'll still track it over at BangTheBook.com. We'll still follow along. You can find a Super Contest preview article on Saturdays along with our selections for our entries. Then I also talk about the field as a whole, some of the notable entries, stuff like that. On Tuesdays, I post recap articles for both the Super Contest as well as the Golden Nugget, and we'll see what kind of information we do get from the Circa Million in terms of pick counts and stuff like that. Odds are I'll probably do a Saturday preview for the Circa Million as well as a Tuesday recap over at BangTheBook.com. So we have full comprehensive coverage of these contests that are there. Now, last year for me, in the Super Contest, I got off to a horrible start. 10, 25, and 5 over my first 40 picks over the first 8 weeks of the season. But over the last 9 weeks of the season, 31, 13, and 1. So 70.5% for me in the NFL with regards to the Super Contest over the last 9 weeks, but just got off to such a bad start. Wind up finishing 41, 38, and 6 for the season. Look, when you start 15 games under 500 in your first 40 plays, getting over 500 is a great achievement, at least as far as I'm concerned. Didn't come close to sniffing the money, but it was a good building block here heading into this season. Feel a little bit more confident about some of the things that I found in the second half of last year. The sick thing is 70.5% for me over the last 9 weeks. The winner, Pigskin Junkies, 70.2% for the season. You had to be at least 62.4% or higher to make the money. The cutoff for the money was 53 points. So again, 85 selections maximum, 53 points was the cutoff there to get into the money. And again, that was over 62%. So you have to be very, very good in this contest. You have to run very good in those coin flip situations. You have to run very good in those games that come down to the wire with the backdoor covers or the front door covers. You got to be really, really good in this thing. And, we'll talk about it as the show goes along here and maybe as I add some guests to this segment as we get deeper into the season. But there are some game theory elements to this as well. Right now, everybody's goal at the start should simply be to pick winners. But there are some some strategy elements to this. Some people try to go anti-consensus. They want to go contrarian. They want to try to pick up some 2-game swings on the field. They'll try to actively go against the top plays that are out there, hoping that the underdogs come through. And a lot of people do like this fade the public, go contrarian mentality in the NFL. And as mentioned, the consensus last year was pretty decent. The year before, it was not. So this is one of those things where some years it works, some years it doesn't. Other people just look to play line value. They look to play line moves around key numbers. And what is interesting about these two contests here is that there is some odds maker influence in the numbers, especially with what we've seen in the Super Contest. And obviously with how Circa is advancing the industry here, we'll probably see some influence of their opinions in these contest numbers as well. So you will see some numbers that may be a little bit lower than the market or maybe higher than the market at the time these lines are released because they want to make the contest players think. A lot of times you're going to see a 6 or a 7 out there in the market. You're going to see 5.5 or 6.5 in these contests because they want to try and balance the pick counts. They want to make this as difficult as they possibly can for a lot of the contestants that are out there. Now, what's really interesting about the differences between the Super Contest and the Circa Million, well, first of all, we've seen the Super Contest for many, many years now. We have an idea of what the staff over there at the Westgate wants to do. We weren't as sure for the staff over at Circa. Now, one of the key differences here about these two contests is that the Super Contest lines came out Wednesday afternoon in Vegas, evening time for the East Coast crowd. The Circa lines came out Thursday morning. And we did get some line moves Wednesday night that did change some of the numbers for the Circa contest lines. So, for example, you've got the Vikings -3.5 in the Circa. They're -4 in the Super Contest. Jets -2.5 in the Circa. They're -3 in the Super Contest. Chiefs a half point lower in the Circa than they are in the Super Contest. Browns a half point higher in the Circa than they are in the Super Contest. Rams down a full point in the Circa. Lions down a half point at 2.5. Seahawks down a full point at 8.5. Chargers, Patriots, Texans, all a half point difference from where the Super Contest lines are. And then the Broncos the Broncos are listed as -2.5 in the Circa and a pick'em in the Super Contest. So it will be very interesting to see what happens with those because my guess is, much like us here at BangTheBook.com, the people that are in the Super Contest are also in the Circa Million and vice versa. Now, of course, a lot of us were hoping for an overlay relative to the prize pool in the Circa. Instead, they did get over 1,500 people. They wind up increasing the quarterly prizes because there's no administrative fee in the Circa Million for this year. We'll see if that winds up being the case next year. But in any event, the full entry fee went to the prize pool in the Circa, not the case in the Super Contest. Super Contest does have about 2 times the entrance that the Circa does, but still the Circa, of course, one of the most player-friendly books out there. Not just books, but also their casinos. The D in Golden Gate, 10x odds on craps, all kinds of 3-2 blackjack everywhere. You don't see that everywhere in Vegas anymore. So, of course, the Circa, very player-friendly outlet there. Not to say that the Westgate Superbook is bad by any means. As this thing continued to grow, the more resources they had to put towards it. So they put that 8% fee on it. Golden Nugget did not have a fee last year. This year they are taking that 3% that I mentioned. Now, let me also say this. I record this on Thursday evenings just before I record the segment with Brent from DSI Sportsbook. So, couple things right off the top here that I do need to mention. First of all, my card will almost never be full for the Super Contest or the Circa Million during this segment because, especially during the course of the season, you get those Friday practice reports, you get those final injury reports. We all know how important injuries are in the NFL, especially cluster injuries at certain positions. So, as a general rule, I'll probably have 3 or 4 of my contest plays figured out on Thursday evening when I record this segment. But our picks aren't due to our proxy until 10 a.m. Eastern time for the Super Contest on Saturday and 3 p.m. Eastern time for the Circa. So with that in mind, I've got a lot of time to make my final decisions, look at some of those injury situations, all that type of thing. So my card is not finalized, and it almost never will be on Thursdays unless I feel like playing the Thursday night game, feel like I've got an edge with that. But I can tell you this. Typically, a pick or a lean that I mention here on this Super Contest segment, I will not play the other side. Now, of course, if there's something crazy like, for example, Aaron Rodgers gets hurt on practice and Friday, well, look, the line will have adjusted 7.5 points in the market, but these contest lines do not move. They get posted and they stay that way. If some crazy, weird scenario happens with an injured quarterback or something like that, in some instances, you're crazy not to take the line value in a contest like this. So if it's a side I like and all of a sudden there's some sort of major, catastrophic quarterback injury or something like that, I'll wind up on the other side. But overall, barring some sort of crazy injury, I won't play the other side of a side that I talk about here with the contest pick. So I just want to throw that out there. I think it's very important because my card can change. I may even like a game when all is said and done that I didn't even talk about here on the podcast. But that's the thing of doing this on Thursday evening to have the Friday show fully put together, when I don't have to submit my picks until Saturday. So just wanted to throw that out there for the listeners here. Obviously with week one lines up, I've got a pretty good idea of what I do like for this week. But as we go forward here in subsequent weeks, you will have injuries, you will have line moves, you'll have all kinds of different things that will alter the market, will change things around a little bit. So just want to throw that out there here at the top of this segment. Look, I mean, this is hard. This contest is hard. Everyone's going to look at this contest and say, well, what could be so hard? You only have to pick 5 NFL games every week. Yeah, but as I just mentioned, 62% got you nothing. 62.4% was the lowest win rate that got into the money last year in the SuperContest. I don't think the Circa Million will be as high. I would expect the Circa Million somewhere around 58 or 59%, probably the cutoff for the money there, because those lines should be a little bit sharper with the extra time to wait around on some line moves, and also just because of the sheer size of the field being cut in about half. You're going to have probably some people that get into the money that, have lower percentages. Although I will say this, the SuperContest paying the top 100. So, obviously a little bit different there. Whereas the Circa, they pay fewer people at the end, but they do have those quarterly prizes and stuff like that. So a lot more opportunities in the Circa to make some money. Whereas in the SuperContest, top 100 or the mini contest. And you do get, extra prizes for, their quarterly prizes, but a lot of times those are teams that are already up near the top of the pack. All right, so with all of that being said here, let's take a look at week one, the games I like. There are 4 games that are very likely to make my card. 3 I would say are definitely on it. 1 I'm a little bit closer to the fence on. And then I've got 3 leans that I'll wind up picking, either my last 1 or 2 games from. So, again, like I said, maybe it doesn't make for the best radio not to have the back and forth, but I want to, go with all of my own thoughts here early on in the SuperContest, as opposed to bringing somebody else in, bouncing these picks off of them, all that type of thing. So we go ahead and start with number 8 in the SuperContest rotation order. The Buffalo Bills. They are a 3-point underdog per the lines for the SuperContest. They are a 2.5-point dog at Circa for the Circa Million. Why the Bills? Well, continuity is a big factor here for me in week one. You basically have the same team as last year for Buffalo. You've got an upgraded offensive line, few new skill position guys. They cut LaShawn McCoy. They brought in Cole Beasley. But this is the same coaching staff, by and large, that they had last year. They also played together a lot in the preseason. And I know we don't want to take too much away from the preseason, especially with all these teams that are sitting their guys and all this type of thing. But the Bills were able to work on some things. They were able to work on some timing. They were able to get Cole Beasley the reps that he needed with Josh Allen. They were able to, get Josh Allen some more opportunities behind that offensive line. These are important things. When you look at the Jets, new head coach in Adam Gase, new offensive coordinator that won't even call plays, new defensive coordinator in Greg Williams. And I got to watch a lot of Greg Williams last year with the Browns. I don't love his defensive scheme. He lines the safeties up 20 yards behind the ball, worried about, cutting down those big plays, stuff like that. I don't think that that's a great strategy against the Bills, because the Bills are not a team that takes downfield shots. Greg Williams' defensive style allows a lot of underneath yardage. That really plays to the strengths of the Bills. And look, I get it. The knock on Allen has always been his accuracy. But what the Bills are going to do here is they're probably going to take pages from what everybody else is doing, like Sean McVay, like Frank Reich. They're going to get the ball out quick and out into space. And as long as Allen can pitch and catch some of those throws, the Bills should move the football. Another set of concerns I have for the Jets here is that they've got some injuries. They've got a lot of new personnel on the offensive line. This offensive line did not play much together in camp or in the preseason. They had some injuries. They had some late signings. It was just kind of in a state of flux all the way around. It's a depth-shy defense that is going to have to learn this Greg Williams scheme on the fly. It's a big adjustment from what they had under Todd Bowles. I like the Bills in this game. I like the Bills outright. I'll certainly take the 3 in the SuperContest. The 2.5 in the Circa is a little bit of a downer, but still, I don't think the spread comes into play here. I think Buffalo wins this game. I think the Bills are an underrated, underappreciated team going into the season. And again, that level of continuity, I think that's so important here in week 1. And I will talk about that a little bit more as we go throughout my picks here for week 1. But it helps, man. You know, I get it. These guys are all professionals. Everyone thinks that they can roll out of bed and, you know, throw perfect slant routes and perfect seam routes and, you know, perfect rub routes and all this type of thing. Timing matters. And the Bills got a lot of reps together in the preseason. The Jets were constantly in a state of flux. Gase was constantly evaluating his personnel. He was actively trying to get rid of, you know, players from the previous regime. The Bills are just in a better spot here, I think, despite going out on the road to the Meadowlands with a Jets team that probably has a little bit more buzz around it than we've seen in past years. But I'm taking the Bills here in this one. Like I said, I like the +3 in the SuperContest. I will take the 2.5 in the Circa Million. I don't love it as much as the 3, but like I said, I think the Bills win this game outright. Next one on the board here for me, number 18, the Carolina Panthers +2.5 in the SuperContest, +1.5 in the Circa. And once again, you know, I'd rather have the 2.5 than the 1.5, but not really that big of a deal here. We're not talking about key numbers or anything like that. I will say this. Of the first 4 plays I'm talking about here, this is the one I'm a little closer to the fence on. Look, the Rams are very, very good. We all know that. They are a little bit of a regression candidate, though, as we look at, you know, how they really outscored teams. The defense didn't play all that well last season, so you got to be a little bit worried about that. Any offensive drop-off from this team would be a concern. And like I just mentioned, you've got a lot of teams doing the Frank Reich, the Sean McVay type of thing. So a lot of these defenses are going to see these concepts more frequently. That will probably take away some of the Rams' effectiveness. They'll still be very, very good, but I think it will still take away some of their effectiveness. And, you know, I'm not a big trends guy, but I think this one's kind of interesting. Super Bowl losers, the last 15 years, 2-12-1 against the spread in week 1. Now, of course, keep in mind, it's a good team from the year before. It's probably a team in line for some regression. And also it's a team that may have a little bit of that Super Bowl hangover. So a trend will never, ever, ever be the sole reason for me to make a play. But it's all part of the equation here a little bit. And because I like the Panthers already to begin with, not really a bad trend to have in my back pocket here. But look, Carolina, I know it's tough with the storm blowing through the Carolinas and all that, but the Panthers have had a lot of time to look at this Sean McVay offense. They should be able to see the intricacies, the nuances. It's much more difficult to prep for a scheme like that over 4 or 5 days. The Panthers have had a very long time to prep for it and to take a look at it. And this McVay offense is very structured. You know, a lot of timing things to it. And I think the Panthers may have a little bit of an advantage offensively here because they can improvise a little bit more. Cam Newton's a very mobile dude. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. Jared Goff is as mobile as he needs to be. So the Panthers can improv a little bit. They can go off the cuff. When things break down a little bit, they can figure some things out. The Panthers have good skill position talent. Obviously a great safety net out of the backfield in Christian McCaffrey. Cam Newton seems healthy. The defense is as healthy as it's probably going to be, you know, before that inevitable Luke Kuechly injury, and hopefully it's not a concussion again this year for him. The Rams didn't get any reps in the preseason, and they didn't last year either. I understand that, and it didn't bother them last year, but they play a much tougher first opponent here in the Carolina Panthers, a team with a lot more talent, a team that underachieved last year as Newton battled some injuries. I think this is a decent buy low spot on Carolina. So give me the Panthers +2.5 in the SuperContest, +1.5 in the Circa. Again, I just think that this is a tough spot for the Rams. Cross country, not a whole lot of timing in the preseason. And also, like I'll talk about here a little bit later on in this segment, they're in a little bit of a look-ahead spot with New Orleans on deck in that big playoff rematch. Next up on the board for me here, we go back to the AFC. Number 24, the Indianapolis Colts. They're plus 6.5 in the SuperContest, plus 6 in the Circa Million against the Los Angeles Chargers. Look, we've talked about this already on the show this week. It's been talked about a lot. This is a rallying cry. This is a circle the wagons type of game here. Whatever you want to call it, the Colts are going to be fully focused and fully motivated in this spot. And look, I don't mind the drop-off from from Andrew Luck to Jacoby Brissett. Brissett got first-team reps in camp. It's his second year with the Frank Reich scheme. I think he could potentially be as good or better of a fit for the Frank Reich scheme. I read a great article, phenomenal article from Ted Wynn over at The Athletic. It's over on the Colts page. If you have an Athletic subscription, that's a very good thing for you to have. It was a great piece on how Jacoby Brissett fits this system. Because of his accuracy on short and intermediate passes, he's a guy with just enough mobility, actually a pretty mobile guy, but just enough mobility to get through this Frank Reich offense. There's a lot to like about Jacoby Brissett. And also, too, Andrew Luck was hurt. Andrew Luck was not 100%. Even if he hadn't retired, he was not in tip-top game shape. This is not that big of a drop-off at all. I think the market has overreacted here to the fact that a big name, a guy with, name recognition, retired. Brissett is a very solid player. Doesn't hurt to have, been under the guidance of Tom Brady for a while. Now you're running this Frank Reich offense that's very, very good for you. And this Colts defense is very strong. This is not like when Jacoby Brissett came in and had to be the starter in 2017. They've got a better coach. They've got a better defense. They have a healthier defense. There's a lot to like about this Indianapolis Colts team. There's not so much to like about the Chargers here in week one. I think overall, the Chargers are going to be a pretty good team this season, but no Derwin James, which is a big loss against this Frank Reich offense. He's the center fielder. He's one of the quarterbacks of this defense. You talk about what the Colts want to do, getting the ball in space to their athletes, let them make plays. Derwin James can take that away. Derwin James is not out there this week. Russell Okung, out for probably the season with some serious health concerns. Melvin Gordon not playing. So the Chargers may have some difficulty here winning this game at the point of attack, winning this game at the line of scrimmage. This is a Colts team on a mission. The coaching is good. As I mentioned, the defense should take a step up. And I think Jacoby Brissett walks into this situation with a hell of a lot of confidence, a very good coach, a very good team. Give me the Colts here plus the 6.5, and I will also take them in the circa, getting 6 on the road against the Chargers, who also don't have much of a home field advantage. It's the home opener. You would think that's at least a full 3 in the NFL. Not for the Chargers, as far as I'm concerned. Finally here, of the 4 plays I really, really like, the 4 I'm pretty confident that are going to make my card here. Number 30, the Houston Texans. They're plus 7 in the SuperContest, plus 6.5 in the Circa Million. The Saints have the Rams on deck. Like I mentioned, NFC playoff rematch game. That's a little bit of a worry for me. They get this non-conference opponent. They've got a short week to go and play the Rams after playing this Monday night game against Houston. They play Seattle the week after. It's a tough start to the year for the Saints. And they've got 2 big division games here against the Rams and the Seahawks. Not to say you're going to overlook week 1, but still, it's one of those things where I think Houston is a very live dog here. Laramie Tunsil should definitely help with the protection of Deshaun Watson. And as we know, Deshaun Watson did not have much protection last year. There's a lot of anti-Drew Brees sentiment coming into the season. I think it's fair. You worry about him throwing the deep ball. You worry about how he can do year after year after year with the workloads that he's had throughout his career. The way to beat Houston is to throw the ball deep. I don't know if he can do that here in this spot. Yeah, he's got very good skill position talent, as we all know. Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, all those types of guys. But I think you have to take the top off of this Texans defense. I don't know if he can do it here. Now, going back to the Texans offense once again, I think they're better off not having to feed the ball to Lamar Miller. I know Lamar Miller had 4.6 yards per carry last year. It was very good. But when you look at this Texans team under Bill O'Brien, 23rd, 28th, 19th, 16th, and 19th in yards per attempt rushing. They're better with the ball in Deshaun Watson's hands. They're better when they have to throw the football. I think they have to throw the football here. I know they have Carlos Hyde, who they're going to try and run between the tackles, maybe try and control time of possession, something like that. I think your better bet here is Duke Johnson. The quicker back, the better hands out of the backfield. I would not be the least bit shocked if Deshaun Watson throws the ball 50 times in this game. And that's what I want as a Texans backer. I know the Saints have improved their secondary exponentially over the last few years, but I like Houston in this game. I think they can score with the Rams. I think that Deshaun Watson is on a mission this season. He's got better weapons around him. The Texans have a lot to prove here in this opening game. I don't think that the Saints do. So give me the Texans here plus the 7 in the SuperContest or plus the 6.5 in the Circa Million. I'd obviously, as you know, have to pick 5 games. So the 3 that are in consideration here for the last game for me, the Giants, number 26 in the SuperContest rotation order, they're plus 7 in both the SuperContest and at the Circa Million. It's a big number here for the Cowboys. With Zeke just coming back, I really liked how improved the Giants' defense looked in the preseason and like the personnel that they brought in. What holds me back on this game is I don't know what I get from Eli Manning. There aren't many weapons outside of Saquon Barkley. There were some wide receiver injuries in the preseason. Dallas is getting that offensive line back together. But the question I have, can Dallas flip the switch here? 1-4 against the spread in week 1 their last 5 years, and Jason Garrett punts the preseason. So can they be ready to go? Can they be that team that we expect them to be here in week 1? I don't know if that's going to be the case. So I do have a lean towards the Giants plus the 7. Not officially on my card as of yet. I want to take a deeper look into Eli Manning here before I consider this one as my 5th play. But again, this is a big number here in week 1 for a division rivalry. And once again, as you've heard throughout the week and as you've seen all over Twitter, division dogs in week 1 tend to be a pretty decent play. Another play for consideration for me here is number 28, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're plus 5.5 in the SuperContest, plus 5 in the Circa. Look, we look for that Patriots regression year in and year out. Maybe this is the year that it happens. Maybe this is the year it happens for Tom Brady, who wasn't all that great for long stretches of last season. It's almost always close between these two teams. The Steelers probably feel a little bit disrespected coming into the year because of all the Browns love. Lots of weapons here for Pittsburgh. Love the defense. Love the speed of that defense. They could make things tough for Tom Brady here. Obviously, Brady without Gronkowski, who retired. Not sure I want to put this one on my card yet. I'm very wary of very public dogs, and I think Pittsburgh is a pretty popular team out there. And when you've got a public dog against the Patriots, it is a little bit scary. So this line is coming down. I agree with that line move. I don't know if I love this game enough to take it for the Circa or the SuperContest, but it is under consideration. Finally, one more here. Number 31, as we go back to Monday Night Football, the Denver Broncos. They're a pick'em in the SuperContest. They're minus 2.5 in the Circa Million. Read a great article from Brandon Thorne over on The Athletic about Vic Fangio's defense. And now you've got a Raiders team missing its top player in Antonio Brown, its unquestioned top offensive weapon. This Vic Fangio defense is a very good fit for the Broncos. They've got corners that can play on an island and play very physical. They've got great pass rushers. They can give a bunch of different looks and confuse the opposition. I think it's a tough first game for Derek Carr and the Raiders, especially now not having Antonio Brown, not having that guy you can target 15 times where he's going to come away with 10 catches for 100 or so yards. Who makes up that yardage? Who makes up those targets for the Raiders? I'd be very concerned about that for Oakland here in this game. The obvious concern for the Broncos here is Joe Flacco. How does he play? Not a whole lot of reps in the preseason, but I would expect Denver to want to run the football here. And they did run the football for some success last year in 2 meetings against the Raiders. Had over 260 rushing yards, only 100 in the second meeting, but they were down 17-0 at halftime. Had to kind of abandon the run, had to throw the football. Still ran for over 4 yards per carry in that game. So they still moved the football on the Raiders on the ground. I would expect the same thing here. I would say of these 3 leans for me, Broncos as a pick'em, probably my favorite one here, and could very well end up being my fifth play for the Super Contest. We'll see if the 2.5 makes the cut here in the Circa. So just to recap here, Bills +3, Panthers +2.5, Colts +6.5, Texans +7, and then one of Giants +7, Steelers +5.5, or Broncos pick for the Super Contest. Likely using those same 4 plays in the Circa with the Bills 2.5, Panthers 1.5, Colts 6, Texans 6.5. So those are the plays I'm looking at here for week 1 of the Super Contest. Once again, you'll get our final official card on Saturday over at BangTheBook.com in that Super Contest preview article, which will usually come out about 3 o'clock or so because we have to wait for the pick counts to come in for all of the Super Contest games, see what the consensus numbers are, all that kind of thing. But we'll have comprehensive coverage of the Super Contest over at BangTheBook.com.